just some brief context as to why we felt it was important as an organization, but more broadly as a movement, to introduce the idea of the OPA lecture. So 3 very quick points around this. The first one was to commemorate in very many forms and deliberately the efforts, the struggles, the dedication and the deliberateness of Aphrodite's founder, OPA Kapijimpanga, in ensuring that Aphrodite as an organization was set up to always maintain and stay the course for why it was set up as a Pan-African organization, civil society organization, to provide an African perspective on issues of public debt and linking it to issues of development and development finance. Through his work over several decades before establishing and founding Aphrodite, he had dedicated his time to ensuring that the cause and the voice of African citizens was always loud, visible, and impactful through different roles that he played in different organizations. And he took that experience and that exposure in setting up Aphrodite over 25 years ago. So I think I was just doing the maths before starting. I think we're celebrating 30 years next year. So a big testament to OPA for having an organization that has stayed the course for this long, 3 decades. It's no mean feat, particularly with the trials and tribulations that come with it. The second reason that we have the OPA lecture is to also celebrate Pan-Africanists from across the continent who continue to stay the course in advancing the idea of an alternative way of thinking about the continent, not one that is straddled in a myriad of challenges, some external, certainly we know those, but many that are also internal, that we sometimes tend to, let slip by the wayside and not focus too much on. And so the OPA lecture is also intended in that way to commemorate and dedicate, but most importantly, celebrate the idea that we as activists, we as advocates of this great continent and for this great continent must be recognized, must continue to be part and parcel of the fabric that is being passed on from generation to generation in terms of our thought leadership, our Pan-Africanism, our solidarity, and most importantly that the struggle must never seem to wane under any sort of tension or any sort of weaknesses that may emerge from global tendencies or global trends. And third and finally, the idea that, we must celebrate our own authenticity and that our manifest destiny, our sovereignty, our emancipation is largely and only driven from within. And the idea of the OPA lecture is to epitomize and emphasize that it is only through our own determination and our own dedication to find those solutions, to find those activists who align with our values, not just from the continent, because our struggle generally in the global south has certain peculiarities that are common. There are those, who fight the struggle consistently in the global north, in solidarity. There are those who fight the struggle in the global south across different regions in solidarity. And so the OPA lecture is about bringing all those different dynamics, those dimensions, and most importantly, that appreciation that, the solidarity of emancipation, the solidarity of sovereignty can only be achieved from within the continent, and that we cannot and must not rely on the externalization of our own sovereignty and liberation. So just a brief context and background to why we have the OPA lecture as a pre-event to the African Conference on Debt and Development. And this year's theme on reparations and reparative justice aims to sort of catalyze and bring those different conversations together. For many of us who are involved in the conversation on reparations and reparative justice, there's a big emphasis on things like labor, restitution, issues on cultural dimensions that are the mainstay of the conversation. But we also need to integrate the idea of economic emancipation, economic liberation, because that in itself also is one of the costs or impacts of a system that has over 500 years continued to put us in this systemic and cycle of being dependent, of being indebted. And so today's lecture is about bringing together these different buckets of struggles, and our lecture is going to be delivered by Comrade Roger Mackenzie,